Hey, what's up YouTube? And what's up fam? It's your boy, Anime Kid Evolved. Today, everything. Now, on the last video, it says it's been 3 weeks. Let me show y'all. Yeah, it says 3 weeks ago. Oh my god, and I'm just now posting. That's crazy. But even though it's been a long time, it's a new What If. I'm doing a remake of What If Deku was a ghoul. Yeah, so 2 years I did a What If about it. It didn't really get lots of views. That's like 33 some views between or something like that. So I'm remaking it. And yeah. So let's get into the What If. So it starts off with a guy named God damn it, I forgot his fucking name. Oh, right, Kaneki. Oh fuck. It ruined my whole entire goddamn thing. But it starts off with this guy named Kaneki. Once was a ghoul, got transported there, and he got transformed into a ghoul, right? And ghouls are basically people that eat other people. Well, they eat humans to live and stuff. And also, some ghouls get special powers and stuff like that. Yeah, so basically, yeah. So what happens is Kaneki, after all the drama in season 2 and season 1, he gets reborn into another world, which is the My Hero world. Let's say some things are different. Instead, there are ghouls, and the ghouls work with the villains. So basically, it's like 1/3 against 2/3, basically. Did that make sense? No, it didn't. But basically, it's like there's a whole entire population. Like there's a whole society that people are good, and people that are villains and stuff. And the hero society lives in with the good people and stuff. And they basically protect the people around. And basically the villains, they were creating people, right? They were taking people from experience until they made things called ghouls. And ghouls, they like to eat flesh, basically like in Tokyo Ghoul. They're basically like Tokyo ghouls. And yes, that did not make sense whatsoever, but let's carry on, shall we? We don't talk about this. We don't. But what happens next is that since the villains created these ghouls and stuff, at first they went on a rampage and started killing villains and stuff until the villains got in control. So, why am I bringing this up? To establish that the villains made the ghouls and stuff. But also, Deku was already born during this time, and he was like 4 years old at the time, but the villains took him away with Inko and stuff, and they experimented on them and made them ghouls. So they were like the first people to ever become ghouls, like they were the first experiments. So they went rogue and stuff, and they went out from the villains and stuff, and after that, Deku and Inko were in hiding. So what happened next was that they were hiding right within society, right, with the good people, with the heroes and stuff. But then Deku couldn't control it any longer when Bakugo was sitting right next to him and he blew up his desk. So basically, this is years later when the whole entire incident happens. So let's say Inko and Deku weren't originally from that Japan, right? They were different. They were from a different state, like a whole different thing. But then they moved to Japan and stuff, and then they went to school with Bakugo and stuff like that. And then they learned that Deku didn't have a quirk, so then, yeah. So one thing happened is that Inko had to get humans to feed and stuff so they didn't go on a rampage and stuff, and so they control. But since Deku was a little kid, he couldn't control his anger and his flush that much. And then what happened next is that a kid was found dead in the woods, torn apart, and his flesh eaten, and his brains eaten, and stuff like that. So basically, a kid was found dead, and people learned that there was ghouls in the society. So they put up measures in schools and stuff like that to make sure that there wasn't any ghouls around, and that's how basically that happened. But then Deku and his mom came up with a way to get past their security and stuff like that. I don't really know how I'm gonna explain it. They cloak. It's ghouls, let me say, they give off a certain stench, a certain smell, and they're always giving that off, and they can smell that smell, and then they made a detector to detect that smell and that odor. So what happens is that Deku and Inko came up with a way. So it was originally Inko. So Inko came up with a way to cloak their odor and their body odor and stuff like that, so they can get past the security. So Deku, he kinda had to eat at home. He ate flush at home and stuff. So what happened next is that Deku, he still went to school, and let's say a couple years later, when the incident about Deku and Bakugo happens, so since Bakugo knows there are ghouls, right, he said he's gonna become a ghoul. Not become a ghoul. He's gonna become a hero to protect the society from ghouls and stuff like that. And he's basically on a monologue and stuff like that. But Deku is just sitting there, right, not bothering anybody. But then Bakugo looks in his direction and he says, "Hey, Deku!" Deku goes, "What? What?" And Bakugo says, "Hey, Quirkless, I need you to do something for me." And Deku says, "What?" "What? I'm gonna need you to go into the woods." Deku says, "What? Why?" "Why?" And Bakugo says, "Just in case there's ghouls, we'll need someone to protect us, right?" Because they went. So basically, they're going on a field trip in the woods, right? Basically camping, right? And they bombard Deku to come with them. And this is the part where Bakugo messes up, and Deku, he can't control himself right now, and he says yes with a sinister grin. But then he snaps back to reality and says yes. And then he goes home for the day, right? And what happens next is that Inko, she basically feeds him lots of flesh and lets Deku eat humans before this field trip happens, so he won't go crazy. So basically, what happens next is that Deku, yeah, he goes camping with them and stuff, and they see a bear. They see a bear, and Deku, he is able to easily take it out, but he is able to easily take it out, but he doesn't want to, because he will show that he's a ghoul if he does that. So basically, ghouls have this thing called, like, basically things, their power, right? So I'm gonna look up the name of it, okay? So I looked up it and I found out the name. It's called a Kagi, okay? So a Kagi, so Deku has a Kagi. He learned how to do this from his mother, because his mother was more older and could handle more of her hunger better than him. So what happened next is that she's able to use her Kagi better than Deku can. And one time Deku went on a rampage with his Kagi, and there was found multiple people dead around the city, and Deku almost got caught with it too. So Inko basically told him how to use his Kagi and stuff, and helped him train with it for a couple years. And what happened is that Deku is able to use his Kaneki fully to the full extent, and he's able to use, like, Kanekis. You know Kaneki, right? Right? You know when I said he was reborn into this world? So Deku, he's basically Kaneki's reincarnation, if you know what I mean. So lately, after he got turned into a ghoul by the villains, he's been having, a couple flashbacks, if you know what I mean. A couple flashbacks about Kaneki's life, and stuff happened and stuff. So while they was out camping, a boar came and tried to, eat the people, but Deku didn't do anything, because if he he would do anything, they would get suspicious of him and stuff like that. Because he said he didn't have a quirk, and he's easily able to punch a bear and able to easily kill it, then that would strike suspicion, right? Because you're a regular human. You don't really work out. Deku doesn't really work out that much. Yeah, he does jog, do a couple push-ups every day, but still, it's not to the extent where he's able to, they know it wouldn't be to that extent. But what happens next is that Bakugo finishes off the boar. But then it gets late, right? And they say they want to camp here and sleep. So Deku, he's kinda anxious, because he doesn't know if he'll be able to hold out that long. So what happens next is the next day, they go chopping for some firewood and stuff. And Deku, he gets off away from the group, and he gets some logs with his Kagi. So he chops the firewood in half with his Kagi, but then while he's doing this, somebody sees him and they scream, "Ah!" Immediately, Deku turns around and sees that it's a guy, a middle-aged man, looks around in his 30s or 40s. And Deku immediately kills the man. But then he eats the guy's flesh to dispose of the body. And what happens next is he gets a craving for it. So what happens next is that Deku, he goes back. He wipes the blood off his face, cleans himself up, and he goes back. And Bakugo and them are wondering why they heard a scream off in the distance, so they check to go look. But then, as Deku is washing the blood off his face, he has his face covered a little bit. So what happens next is he is washing himself up, but then Bakugo and his friends walk in to see blood on his face, and as he's washing it off they scream, "Deku, what are you doing?" And they are wondering what he was doing and why he had red stuff on his face. And Deku said, "Oh no, I cut myself and it got a little bit on his face." And they saying, "Well, okay, well, go make yourself useful and go into the forest and receive more firewood and stuff." So basically, Deku goes more deep into the forest, but then Bakugo, he basically tells him to go deep to get him lost, and eventually he's not thinking if Deku can get eaten by ghouls, which he can, but ghouls wouldn't really want to go versus him, so he tells him to go off in the distance. And since Deku is getting a kind of craving for human meat again, he goes off in the distance so he can wash the blood off his face more and stuff. So what happens next is Deku goes off in the distance. He's chopping up firewood and stuff, and what happens next is Deku meets this guy. He suddenly blacks out, and he falls asleep, and he wakes up to see this guy. He has a mask on his face, but white hair, and he has a red eye. And he's wondering who this guy is. And then the guy speaks and says, "Deku." And that will be it for this episode. Or shall we say, this what if. So this is the first part to what if Deku was a ghoul. So if y'all guys enjoyed it, make sure you please like, subscribe, make sure you share this to your friends. Please, I need content, please. And that will make me be able to post more and able to make y'all guys have an enjoyable day, because mainly I'm kind of doing this for the enjoyment for you guys. So it would really help me if y'all guys like, subscribed, and maybe had a little comment on the side, comment about what you thought about the video. And this is Anime Kid Evolved, and I'm